Hello YouTube, I have a new one for you today. What you see here is the electronics for an Armattan Marmotte. It's for a buddy of mine. I put this together, not like this, it was on the frame. I took it off to add something to it. Let me go over what we have. It's a Kakute, it's a Holybro Kakute F7, Aikon AK32 ESCs, and these are the Hype Train blaster motors. They're 2207. This is the size of the motors. There was some other stuff that was going to go into this frame. However, he picked up something else. Wanted me to add to it, and that is this guy. What you'll see is the DJI digital HD system, the camera system. So that's why this is apart, because I had to solder the wires for the system on it. I just wanted to show you how I did it and how I got it to fit in the frame. So let's get into it. First off, the wiring. This is the wiring harness that comes with the system, and it plugs just right into the back of the Air Unit right here. You have red and black for your power and your ground. White and gray is actually the data lines going to the flight controller. The brown wire is a ground signal, and the yellow wire is your S-bus for receiver control. Now, my buddy is using the controller with this system, so he's using all the wires. As I understand it, if you're going to use your Taranis controller, you don't need to hook up the S-bus wire. All you need is your power and your data lines if you want to get information on the OSD. So this harness, the voltage, basically could use battery voltage. It's like 7 volts to 17 point something volts. So I have it hooked, the red and black wire soldered right to the battery leads on the board itself. They're labeled right there. If it'll focus, maybe. Okay, apparently it doesn't want to focus. That's strange. Anyway, battery plus and ground on this particular board. The white and the gray wires, those are your, as I said, the data lines. It uses the MSP protocol in Betaflight, and I have those soldered to R4 and T4. And it's the gray wire, it goes to the receive side, and the white wire goes to the transmit side. And I have them both on, they're on UART4. The brown wire I have soldered to a ground, and the yellow wire S-bus is soldered to 6, receive 6 for this particular board. And that is all you need to hook this up to your Air Unit up to your flight controller. That's it. I mean, it keeps it a clean build, that's for sure. Because I mean, you have that, a buzzer, and that's it. The Air Unit. To get it to fit in this particular build, because it's so squashed, I had to raise up the top plate. I cut some standoffs here. You can see they're about 7 millimeters high is what I cut them down to. That raises up just enough to where this is just over top of the flight controller, with a little bit of an air gap, so for cooling, and I shouldn't have to worry about it touching. on this particular board, I put the battery, side of the battery leads to the bottom, and that just to give it a bigger gap. So let's get this thing put together and I'll show you what it looks like. I'm going to try and keep the leads below the board. That way nothing is resting on top of it. Because this particular board, the gyro is on top, and you don't want nothing resting against that. Let's see here. I'm going to tie these wires off a little bit so when it's all said and done, keep them nice and clean. Alright. Use double-sided tape to hold those down, and we have some ESC covers that'll go over all that. Yeah, that'll look nice. Now the screws that the Marmotte came with were way too short. I believe the Marmotte came with them. Maybe it wasn't the Marmotte. Maybe it came with the motors. Either way, they were way too short to be able to use it like bumpers or anything like that, or arm guards. So I went up to Menards and picked up some M3 screws from there. Menards actually sells metric screws that'll work. Oh, there we go. These screws are 10 millimeters long, and it happens to work out nicely. When it's tightened down, they should go all the way to the, all the way through the base of the motor, without touching any wires. Oh, yeah, good. Good. Oh, hey now, get back on there. Alright, I think that should take care of the focus issue. Oh wait, let me finish this one. Now I did power this up before I started putting it together, and all was well. And I suggest you do that before you really button everything down. Just power it up, make sure all is well. Last thing you want is to have to take it all apart again. All this 3D printed stuff can be purchased through eBay or places like that. I believe that's where these were all purchased from. These landing skids are nice. They help protect the carbon fiber. Give you a landing surface, a fairly tough landing surface. And we're using these in conjunction with the foam, little dog bone foam pieces here. So those will compress down, obviously, and these will make the touchdown. So. Now, I have a suggestion. If you're building a quad and you're not putting an air unit in, you have, an RXSR or not Crossfire, those have separate ones, but you have an RXSR or something like that where you have regular antennas like these, well, IPEX antennas. I suggest keeping a set of these zip ties on here. That way you have something to heat shrink the antenna to. For instance, you keep a zip tie like this, and you could run your antenna line right along it and heat shrink it. And I have an example on my very dirty Chameleon. I left the zip ties there, and my RXSR antenna lines come out and go right into the heat shrink. It seems to work really well. But in this case, we don't need them. Alright, there you have it. I'm not tightening down the rest. I will. Obviously I got to plug this in. And I don't have antennas yet. DJI forgot to put antennas in the kit, so we're waiting for those to come in. So I can't really test this either, but here's the build with the air unit in. There is a very slight gap in between here, and that is made possible by these standoffs that raise the top plate about approximately 7 millimeters. I don't know if you could find 7 millimeter standoffs. You could. I'm pretty sure I've seen 8. So if you put a 8 millimeter standoff in there, you should be just fine. And it does change the appearance a little bit of it, but hey, when you're buzzing around super fast doing split S's over trees, you won't notice the top plate being up that high. There you have it. An Armattan Chameleon with a DJI Air Unit in it. I'm going to do some more cleanup with it before it's all said and done, but there she is. Thanks for watching.